we go again. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and hopefully my microphone doesn't fail on me. My name's Ollie, and welcome to War in the Webway. And as always, you know him, you love him. We're joined by Alan. Say hello, Alan.
It hasn't just been your microphone that's been a problem. My microphone's died. My laptop's died. Everything's died, which is why we're coming a few days late.
Yeah. We'll talk about something that's right hot off the press last week because of technical issues in the War in the Webway studio. It's a hard life doing some YouTube stuff, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah,
How
but
are you?
it's given us a bit more time to actually think about it, isn't it? Because
That's,
there's been so much to think about.
I can tell you what customer facing. Trying to dress up a mistake, I'm like, oh my god, it doesn't work, and you're like, guys, it's an opportunity. Like, don't think of it as a weakness. Think of it as an opportunity.
Actually,
How
talking utter bullshit.
how are you? As always, good start.
Yeah, all good, mate, all good.
Cool. What are we
I've
talking
been
about today?
seeing. So today we're talking about the slate, and if we get time, the points. We're not going to talk
Yes.
about the Nexus, the prior Nexus. We're going to talk about the slate and the points.
Yes. Okay, so interesting data slate that came out last week. I thought it was well, let's just get into it. I thought it was a big changes. I guess before we start, have you seen the thing doing the rumors of 10.5? People are calling this data slate 10.5.
I haven't seen that.
Have
No,
you not? Okay,
no.
so
Is it
there's a,
what? Because it's like so far-reaching and stuff.
so because of the things like changing to movement, because of how rules interaction are with monsters and whatever, because of how they've changed redeployments and they've changed interactions and whatever and everything, how they've changed stratagem usage with the Calidus ability, etc. Like, the changes are quite significant. Dev wounds being changed to mortals, which all the stuff we're going to get into in more detail. But there is a growing group of people calling this a 10.5, which I thought was really interesting. Because my first question was going to be, do you think this is enough of a change from what was there before to call it a halfway
Is,
house?
is this how you see it? Is this how you see it? Like a 10.5? I mean, is it?
I don't
Would you say that? Would you agree with it?
know. So the hard thing here, right, is that people see 8th as a brand new edition, 9th as a refinement, and then 10th as a sort of a brand new edition again. But 10.5 isn't really that much of a refinement. Sorry, this isn't that much of a refinement to call it 10.5 in my opinion. I think it's interesting. I think they are getting better at trying to understand how they want to play the game. And that's how I'm reading this. So things like we'll get into like general rules and then how it affects custodies, but things like how the way vehicles move. The number of times I've been on a table and somebody's like, "Whoop, you can't do that. That pivot costs this much movement," and trying to work out what's the furthest part that turns around and stuff. It makes sense that if you're on a circular base, that's prior nexus, it's no movement, and if you're not on a circular base, it's -2. How much easier is that to do? And I'm sitting there thinking, right, Caladius, Coronis, like all dreads don't suffer a penalty for pivoting because I thought pivoting was stupid anyway. Everything on that like oval base -2, and you can put it wherever you want. Brilliant. Really like that rule change. So for me, I'm reading the changes. I'm like, actually, a lot of these just make sense. I'm quite happy with them, but I don't think it's enough of an addition change to call it a 10.5.
I think it's a tough one. I think it's a tough one because I think those are the kind of rules that like are good until you come across an interaction which is not fair. Do you
Yeah.
understand? So it's like, for example, a bloodthirster can get a little bit more movement out of this,
Yes.
um, and certain models can. So when you get into a position where one's charged more than a dice roll can provide, then you're a little bit, that's when you'd start to think, oh, this is broken. But until it gets to that point, then it's just purely positive, right?
But I think with that, there's a way that the game designers, not necessarily GW, but the game designers want people to play, and worried about pivoting Bellacor's wings to make sure they don't clip a ruin is not the way they want them to play. And so, like, or a rhino, let's call it a rhino, or any kind of transport, anything like that you can go right -2 to move, and it doesn't matter where it goes, and it can pivot twice, and as long as like the rough movements there, I was kind of already playing it that way anyway. And I know that's not the rules, and that's not the comp scene. But if somebody pivoted it and then moved it and then shifted it back an inch. I was like, yeah, it's close enough. Like it didn't bother me. So to me, it just makes logical sense.
I really like the overhang one. It obviously doesn't really affect
No,
custodies.
nothing we've got. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same point, it was. I used to hate it where it was like, especially with this addition to fly.
Mm.
You'd see someone with like Bellicor, for example, and they'd say, "Oh, the model can't fit there, so I need to go over," and they wouldn't be able to go, and it was just kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
to be honest, the model as cool as Bellicor.
It should go
You
where it
don't want
wants.
them like, yeah, it should go wherever he wants. Exactly. I mean, it's not as if they're not paying a lot of points for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And cash as well. A month for 80 quid or some crap. So you want to be able to use it properly.
Yeah, and okay. Specifically for Custodes, because this is a Chaos thing, a Demon thing, or whatever. What have you read in the Balanced Dataslate specifically that you want to talk about? Because I've got a list, and I can go through my list unless you've got any notes.
Well, what do you mean, the more generic stuff, or do you want to like the rules commentary changes, the game changes, or do you want to go into the faction specific changes?
I think we should do the generic stuff first, and then the faction specific ones.
Okay. I think first things first, we are going to be very heavily hit by Calidus, sorry, not Calidus.
The assassin.
Assassins.
Yes.
Yeah, we are going to be really heavily hit there, and that is probably going to have a massive impact on us because we don't have to fight first. It means we need to keep that CP for interrupts.
So just in case people haven't read the rule, right? The the +1 to CP on battle tactics is now gone. Across the board, it's a universal rule that's been removed. It's now, correct me if I'm wrong, a 12-inch bubble from the model, and it's +1 to any CP usage, right?
Yeah. So there's multiple armies that can do it. Using different models. All the Imperium can just use an assassin to do it. But I think in those kind of games, we're going to have to be like, right, at the start of any fight phase, we need 3 CP, probably.
That's a lot of CP.
4 or 5. I mean, for example, right, the other day, I was in a game and I was like, well, I'm going to make that unit on that objective -1 to hit.
Yep.
And then I'm going to interrupt over here. Because I know he has to start on that objective. Because that's his, whatever he doesn't fight first, the second engagement I will kill. So he has to fight first with his most valuable unit to keep them alive. So I -1 to hit over there. And then I interrupted. Now that's 2 strats. That cost me 3 CP. If they were relatively close, all of a sudden that would change. And they were in that aura. That's 5 CP. I couldn't have done it. So our CP kind of control is going to need to be like massively improved. And for that... I think we're probably going to have to take, and I hate to say it because I really don't like them, we're probably going to have to take shield captains.
Interesting. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to unpick here because I didn't even think about this. Would you drop one of your Inquisitors for a Calidus assassin?
I'm not going to do that. I'm not
not?
going to run an assassin. No, I'm not going to do it. I think Draxis is still an auto take.
Okay.
She's still an auto take for me, and I think Otiez now is an auto take because I think demons are going to be insane.
I think demons are going to be very strong.
And I think demons are going to be very strong, and I also think that world eaters are going to be really strong. And Cotiaz into both of them is very good.
It's fascinating, right? Because I was like, I read this, and again, based on what you just said, but I was like, okay, cool. The assassin has to be in my list. Like, if people are going to be doing this to me, I need to be able to do it back to them, and basically make it a who can get the charge they want and determine the and that sort of thing, right? To me, the assassin is almost the auto take, and then Cotiaz is interesting because of the demon protection. I don't know if Draxus is still the auto take that she once was, because you need that slot. That's just my opinion though.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would drop Cotias for, because a lot of people don't run 2 Inquisitors,
Yes.
and they run that Assassin, but I'm more inclined to drop Cotias for the what do you call them? The Rogue Trader Entourage, rather than um the Assassin, to be
Rogue
honest.
Trade Entourage
Because they're
isn't.
infiltrating, it's our only a unit that we can infiltrate. And scouting is absolutely massive right now.
You gone rogue there,
And
mate. You've gone.
what it does give us is access to one of the very few units in the whole game, which is infiltrate and battle line. Because what you do is you put the rogue trader entourage with the
Yep.
voidsman at arms. The voidsman at arms are battle line, right, which gives the unit battle line. It's a bit pricey. It's 155 points, I think. But it's quite durable. It gives you a relative, 10 bodies, I think it is, or 9 bodies. So it's a big footprint. And what you can do is if you get first turn, you just splat it right across the middle as far as you can. And it means that they can't use their infiltrate anywhere near you because they've got to stay 9 away. And then, if your opponent's got scout, you can leave them where they are. Yeah, you lose the unit, but they're not going to get scout, for example. World Eaters aren't going to get Alpha Strike. Now it's even more important. I know we said we weren't going to talk about Pariah, but they're closer. Deployments are closer.
Yep.
You block that out. Right? You block that first turn Alpha Strike from all of that because they can't scout. Votan, they're going to be very powerful. You can stop them using Jaegers or whatever to infiltrate, and then which will in turn stops all of their Sagittar. Yeah. So it's. I think people should start thinking about it. I think it's if you're in a local meta where there's a lot of scout and infiltrate armies, this will stop that straight off the bat.
That's a bold call, because to me, I think the assassin is way easier to get hold of. It's cheaper, and more people are going to have it in their list. So even though it's a smarter play to do that,
oh yeah,
you can't counter the other people's
It's
assassins.
a smarter. Yeah, it's much more accessible, the assassin, but from a competitive standpoint, into a lot of the armies I think are going to be quite strong. Shutting down infiltrate and shutting down scout with a battle line unit that you can redeploy because your rogue trader entourage gives you that ability to redeploy D3 battle line units before you know who's going first. So you can just plonk them right across the middle, take up as much space as possible, stop your opponent from infiltrating, and then, right, I'm going to redeploy. You put it back on your home objective.
But then they'd still be able to get scout.
Yeah, but it's true. But if you've got an opponent which has a lot of infiltrate but doesn't have a lot of scout, then
the point.
Then there we go. Yeah. Or if your opponent's got scout, but you're not that particularly worried about it, because it may be something like demons where they have a few dogs and stuff like that, right? But you want to stop their forward deploy with the Nurglings, or you want to stop something like that. I think it's going to slowly come into a more competitive standpoint. Now, yes, 100%, Assassin is more accessible, and a lot of people are going to do it. But there are ways around an Assassin. Our way around it is just going to be using Wardens. We do that anyway, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to pop strat when we've got, for that turn, which we've got, or phase, which we've got our Fortfield and Pain. We're not going to need to, or we can rely not on that, especially if they're with Valerian. We won't need to interrupt, or we can take a hit, and then we can use that extra turn we get to move forward, because the assassin's going to be close. Get in and kill the assassin, and then kind of clean up.
So, I like what one of our teammates said, and apologies, I think this was Julio. So, this is your idea, it's not my idea. But you rapidly ingress the assassin, and because it goes up at the end of your turn, you can do it twice. So you can put them in a really annoying spot that you can't charge. And the 12 inches means that you can stop anything like kicking off. You won't get to the assassin. I think I'm genuinely worried for my armies that the assassin is going to really ruin my day.
I mean, certain armies you got to wait. You got to watch out for the. I mean, if you want to drop in, so for example, you've got a damage dealing unit, um, and you want to drop 12 inches away,
Hmm.
and you want to hide behind something,
Hmm.
it's going to be relatively easy to screen out, right? Um,
But you can stop a charge, right?
if you
You can
do,
dictate where you want that assassin to come down, because if you then charge in with damage stats, or I'm not just, I'm just thinking the the ability to affect the game for a 100-point model or 90-point model, whatever it is now, is huge, and to then not have the
yeah,
counter, like as in like a direct counter, the same model back. I think it's a bold call, and I'm genuinely interested to see how you play it. If anybody can make it work, you
yeah.
can.
I mean, it's you could look at it right. Shield host. What strats am I using? Um, I'll be using the Fort Feel No Pain because obviously that now applies to mortals or devs. Um, I'm usually using that in a defensive capacity. So if someone's, and usually that's in shooting. So if a Calidus gets within 12 inches of me, that's going to be quite rare in the shooting phase.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then in the combat phase, if my opponent has one, I will probably, like I said, just be taking the initial hit or the initial push out on my wardens, and then just hiding to drum up as much CP as possible. You've got to look at it as well. If I'm running Kotias, and if my opponent has the ability
There's a
to,
CP refund
um,
option.
yeah, C3 refund on a 2+, so I should be having more CP to spend on things.
Interesting. I'm genuinely interested to see how that works. But again, I don't want to harbour too much on this because I know we want to fly through this. But the Lords of Deceit or Lords of
We have
Deception,
talked a
or
lot.
whatever one that is, I think that's going to be really important for Custodes. I hadn't even thought about how you said like 5 CP are going to be needed. I think a lot of people have come out of the balanced Dataslate and the Munitorum field manual and think Custodes are a winner, but that's huge because of how many few units we've got and how much an interrupt is important. That's an important part. You said that you're going to take more shield captain, well, any shield captains. Are you dropping your blade champions?
Uh, yeah.
You say that so happily. You're like,
No, no. Half.
yeah.
I'm still in the list writing phase, right? I mean, would you drop them? I mean, are you dropping them?
I think I'm maxing out wardens, so 3 lots of wardens or 5 wardens. I think you want 1 blade champion, and I'll probably take 2 shieldies because I still want that rapid ingress, advance and charge, and smash something with the wardens.
See, I'm running
Especially,
Valerian.
okay, sorry, yeah.
No. Go on.
I was going to say, especially because of the other thing. I know we're jumping around here, so apologies. But if you're new here, this is how our podcast goes. If you're not, it's classic. we come up with an idea and then it goes all to hell. But the because of the new rules for Shield Host, where it's not a once per battle, you can dictate where that is really going to hurt. For one, like I don't think you need the Shield Captain in the Rapid Ingress Blade Champion squad. I still think that you want the movement.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really difficult one because I think with the new pack, the new rules, Nexus, all the secondaries, there's going to be an instance where we are really. It's a real difficult one because we're going to be migrating to Venatari for a lot of our rapid ingress, which I've said previously we don't like.
Because of
But
200
for
points.
165 points,
165
exactly,
points is
165
incredible.
points, going to have to, yeah. So I think it's a really difficult one. It's an awkward one. Personally, I'm running Valerian, I'm running Trajan, and I'm moving into either
You're running
a
Trajan?
Blade Champion. Yeah, I'm running Trajan. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Um,
Right, this is why we duck around. Okay, right, sorry. One thought at a time. Val, T-Man, and a Shieldy. Is that what you're going to go with?
it's either a Shield or a Blade Champ. That's the third choice isn't made up yet.
So, and 3 units of Wardens?
No, two, Um,
And 3 guard?
then a unit of no, 2 units of wardens, 2 units of guard for the Inquisitors, and then it's either the Sagittarum or
Oh, of course.
out the Coronis, or it's the um, points permitting, or it's the Pyrrhotite spears out of a Land Raider.
Interesting. Okay, so lot to unpack here. Lot to unpack here, and I will get back to the core rules. I made notes for a reason, but so 2 wardens who are now starting on the field, or maybe they get into one of the transports or whatever. You're still running Sag. You're still like your Sag from the Coronis, or is the Coronis Sag combo on the fence now?
It's on the fence, and I'm dropping the Caladius. And it's to make space for the Venatari.
Okay, so how many Venatari are you running?
Otherwise, I can't have the Venatari. 1 squad trying to get 2.
Of 3s or 6s?
Threes, 6s. I've seen a lot of people. I'm going to run like 12 Venatari and 2 squads of 6s or whatever. To be brutally honest, a 6-man squad will kill anything it touches, but then you lose the value of the fact they've gone down in points because you're investing so heavily still in them. I think the real it's weird. I was having this chat with like a Custodes player at Bad Moon Cafe the other day, who was talking about it, and he basically said, "Oh, I'm gonna get 12 and I'm gonna deep strike them, or 15, I'm gonna deep strike them." I was thinking,
how do you fit 15?
I said to him, yeah, well, the 663, right? So, yeah, it's 15. So then I said to him, but they are now our cheapest custodian unit,
Yep.
right? Apart from 2 Alaras, but they're our cheapest kind of like skirmish unit.
Mm-hmm.
Great movement, infantry, and they take a lot of killing still. So I think they're probably going to be better as early turn trade pieces, to be honest.
Are you starting on the field?
Because one of them, if I've got 2, I'll start one of them on the field. Depending on my opponent, I might start 2.
That's a bold strategy.
And I'll start one up in deep strike for the free rapid ingress. But I mean, there's it's kind of like there's a lot more value in, for example, moving 3 Venatari, taking a middle objective, or nuking something off a middle objective, forcing them to put, valuable units in to kill it. It's much more valuable to me than a rapid ingress to kill a screening unit or something. And I don't know. I just have this feeling that like we're gonna need a bit of reach on our infantry, and with me not having blade champions, it kind of leaves me a bit kind of vulnerable to being constrained movement wise. So that was my thinking anyway. I haven't really tested it out properly. I just think that I'd rather, I don't care losing 165 points, whereas previously our cheapest unit was 4 guard, because 2 Alaras didn't have the movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Previously our cheapest unit was 4 guard, which you would then have to put a character with, so you're over 300 points anyway. Now it's half that, so I think that's where the real value is.
That's fascinating.
I mean, are you like completely the opposite end of the spectrum?
Yeah. So, genuinely, I was like 165 is quality, right? So I want to run. I've literally just bought. I haven't bought. I won in a raffle, babe. If you're listening to this, I definitely didn't buy it. I've just bought 9 more Venatari, and a Coronis, and I'm like, cool. 1 lot of Wardens come out of the Coronis. The Venatari, I've got 3 lots of rapid ingress. I can like hammer things, the good trading pieces, and they protect my Wardens. So I don't need to pop the 4++, because the turn I go in, and I commit everything in. If you're like, it depends where you're going to try and kill them and what's the trading pieces. Again, need to play with it and practice it. But I'm thinking 3 lots of Wardens, 3 lots of Venatari, Blade Champion, 2 lots of. To be fair, Blade Champion, 2 lots of Shield Captains probably, and then if I can fit one in, one Caladius Grav Tank, one Assassin. That's kind of, I don't know how many points that is, I need to work it out, but that would be my core of my list now. And it's just that whole big punch 1-2. Whereas I think you've got way more tech pieces.
Sometimes I think that like I massively overthink things, and or because I'm always like, oh, I'm going to put this unit in. Oh, but what if I come against this matchup that I know this one guy has in my local meta, and then therefore I change my list dramatically just in case I get that one matchup, and then I never get that matchup with those guys, like to the point where it just gets ridiculous. So maybe I'm overthinking it, but I genuinely feel that
it's 200.
You know, I think Venatari add value to us. Yes, definitely on the rapid ingress, 100%. But I would say, you know, they're also going to be really value as an early game skirmish piece.
I understand that,
means
but
I don't,
considering most people don't have, like a turn one is normally like a pass, right? It says staging, whatever. If you can then rapid ingress them down and pull them where you need them anyway, it gives you the flexibility. And especially with a Cronus in the middle, they can kill something, move into the Cronus, and then come out again. And because they move 12, right? Or is it 10?
It's 10. It used to be 12.
Yeah, I'm getting my balls confused. So, and then it's outside the Cronus, it's like 13. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm just knocking points up at the moment. I can get 3 lots of 4 Wardens, 1 Blade, 2 Shieldies, 3 lots of 3 Venatari, 1 Caladius Tank, 1 Caladius. I got it around the wrong way. Caladius Tank, 1 Caladius Assassin, 1 Cronus is 2,000 points. Like that's literally my. I don't know what sits in my backfield, but that'll be fun.
It's weird. It's weird because I think overall the slate has been like really good for us. I think it will remain to be seen how we are structured in the meta, where we fit in the meta, because it's all well and good looking at it as a bit of a bubble in terms of Custodes got better here.
True.
But I don't think we are going to be in a position where we are, I mean, look at our win rate, right? Our win rate was absolutely shocking. You know, whatever it actually was on you know Monday meta stats or some meta Mondays, you know, probably knock a few % off that as well. You know, because of the RTTs and things like that, where we would be getting.
Do you think people will come back to Custodes based on the slate?
I think people will come back, not because it's more competitive, but because it's probably fun now, right?
I agree, because I'm now looking at this and are genuinely interested in playing this at RTTs now.
Yeah, we still don't have answers for some of the massive problematic factions.
Yep.
So we're going to really struggle in the sisters.
Yep.
We're going to.
Although sisters got a bunch of nerfs.
They did, but we're still going to struggle into that.
Yep.
We're still going to, you know, be. I mean, the amount of miracle dice that these guys, you know, that they get, and that can be 6s, and then the amount of melter shots they can put out. You know, every failed melter shot, you know, they can do 2 miracle dice per unit per battle round or per turn, isn't it, or something, or per phase. So all of a sudden, you know, you're looking at, right, okay, not only is it every failed save, but when they've got a damage 3 melee attack, which they do on certain units, all of a sudden every failed save in combat as well is a loss. So we're really going to struggle, because they'll be able to trade into us there. I think we're still going to struggle into World Eaters, and there's just a lot of unknowns. I don't know, it'd be interesting what you think about World Eaters, because you're like a pretty solid World Eater player at the moment, aren't you? So
I like World Eaters. I wouldn't say I'm good at World Eater player, but so I think we need to see lists and what they do, right? I think people are going to lead into 2 lots of Wardens, a bunch of Alaris for the up and downs, because that's what they're going to like. I'm not sure where the majority of Custodes players are going to get their battle line from. Like, the list I just quoted and made off the top of my head has no battle line in it. But with Pariah Nexus, which is not the point of this chat is, you're going to need some sort of battle line in there. I think the Custodes problem is still going to be getting your thing to where it needs to be. And I think that if you rely only on Venatari, and you need your reps in with the Venatari, but if you rely only on Venatari, people could screen them out. They could push them back to the rapid ingress. They're like, it's not a guarantee thing. So even though they're 165 points, which is, some people are saying too cheap, some people are saying it should be 180, 185. I don't mind 165 for 3. For 3 wound Venatari.
I think 165 is fine. To be honest,
I think 165 is fine.
I mean,
sorry, I was going to say, so like, I think there'll be ways to play around it, but until we start to see some of the lists emerging, I don't really know if it's a good or bad, like, for the Wild Eaters matchup. I'm running a bunch of, like, I still don't know how you take down, say, Angron without the Alaris. Your go turn will be a big turn, obviously, but with the potential for Angron to come back, that makes it quite hard, like, as a matchup. So I don't know. I want to see it. I want to do the reps into it and see what happens.
Yeah, I played World Eaters not so long ago, and the Sagi pretty much one shot Alaris, or one shot
Angry.
Angron, and they got him down to 2 wounds, and then Draxus just picked him up with a dev.
But
if he would have come back, that's where the issue would have been.
But
I wouldn't have been able to pick him up a second time. The
thing is, I don't know how many people are playing the Cronus Sag bomb for 400 plus points the way you are. So I would argue that your list is not the typical one. That's not saying you shouldn't play it. You should absolutely play that way of doing it because it works. But if you aren't playing dev wounds through that, how are you getting rid of Angron?
Yeah, you're going to have to...
If Angron gets the charge.
Well, not only that, but if the World Eater player puts Fire on Death...
Yeah, exactly.
Then if you throw something in, there's a 50% chance you're going to lose it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the issue is. I mean, I went in with Trajan and 4 Wardens into a 6-man Exalted. And, I charged him. I fought first. The guy had Fight on Death. I killed the whole squad with Trajan, I think. It was ridiculous. But anyway, 3 of his guys fought on Death. At the end, I had 1 Warden left on 1 wound or something, and Trajan. And it was like... So, I lost what I would probably have lost if I'd have fought Feel No Pain.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to Feel No Pain because next turn he had 2 3-man Exalted that were going to hit me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I just need to hope that he rolls only 1 4-up, or 2 4-ups out of 6.
3 is average.
Because I either lose them. 3, yeah, he rolled average and then just absolutely nuked me. And in the end, it was like, pretty much an even trade,
Yeah.
Despite me doing a rapid ingress, me getting a decent charge.
And then Trajan and the Wardens are out of position, and then there's no point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then next turn he picks up Assassinate, and it's just like, oh god. But I won the game, but it really kind of showed me that I think we're in a really difficult... I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, the shield host change to the detachment rule is great. And I'm kind of like, yes, it is. It is 100%. It is. However, if someone was to say to me, would you prefer it? What would you have liked? I would have preferred it if they'd said, right, you can have both buffs twice a game.
Like a WAR.
Yeah, like a WAR, for a double WAR. You can have them twice, one after the other. So you say turn 2, or you can pick when at 2 battle rounds, and you can only have them for 2. I'd have preferred that over 5, but pick 1 out of the 2.
That's interesting. Why?
Yeah, I just feel into armies which have access to Armour of Contempt.
Yeah, fine.
Or 2-up saves, right?
Yeah, fine.
That's where you're going to go down the route of... You're going to have to go into the route of extra AP.
Really?
And then... Yeah, you're going to have to.
It's fascinating, right? Because I'm sitting there going, I'm popping the 5+ all the time. Because I want to make people make saves rather than... But this is why your reps matter more than my opinion on this. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I only stretch imagination. Just my gut feel is, oh yeah, I want to make them make saves. Because if they make saves, there's always a chance.
You look at this, right? If you got a squad of Terminators...
Mm-hmm.
So in ITT, I went into Abaddon and 5 Terminators.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be a prevalent unit moving forward, but I went into Abaddon and 5 Terminators with a full Guard squad and a Blade Champion, and full Warden squad and Valerian.
Mm-hmm.
And he popped Armour of Contempt.
Mm-hmm.
I had -1 AP. I didn't have my buff turn, my buff battleground, and I ended up killing 4 Terminators out of a ridiculous number of attacks, like 50 attacks. Right, because he's got 3-up saves.
Yeah.
And I needed 2 to go through on each one, and he's doing rerolls. Yes, he rolled well, but it's much easier to roll well when you need 3-ups than if you need 4-ups, right?
It's true.
It's
true.
And Votan, they're Terminators or whatever. And if you run in, a lot of people are starting to think, axes are good, because you can give them that extra AP. Well then, if you're running AP1 axes...
Contempt is AP0, therefore 2-ups don't matter.
Exactly.
It's fascinating.
Exactly.
I haven't thought about it like that.
You could run it when you had both buffs, but when you're picking and choosing, the axes drop off dramatically when you compare them against...
Do you think
spears.
pick 1 is a nerf then over what we had before? Not like what you'd want to have, the double R kind of thing, but having one turn where it is your go turn versus having what feels almost like dark packs, but also maybe some AP. Like, do you prefer what was there before?
No. Don't get me wrong. It's a buff.
Okay.
Right, it's a buff, but it's not the buff that everyone thinks it is.
Interesting. It's fascinating. This is why, like, we don't practice this before coming into this, because genuinely I'd have gone, oh yeah, like it's a massive buff, happily. Like, I would be the voice of everybody else, because I wouldn't be thinking, actually, there are a lot of matchups that it's a nerf on.
No, it's okay. You go into a tank, right? 2-up. If I charge, I hit a Vindicator.
Yep. Or Vindicator.
Or a Dread. Yeah, 2-up armor save. If I want to pop it, and I've got a shield captain there, and I had both buffs up, that thing is gone. That thing is gone. If I can only choose one, I'm like, well, do I do the sustained and lethal 5s and 6s with my shield captain buff, or do I try and get them to a 4-up save, because they're going to Armour of Contempt down to a 3-up save, but then I lose all the lethal hits on 5s, and I'm wounding on 5s.
I need to see this. This is so nerdy.
And if I've got but if I've got Wardens, then I've got no rerolls. So how does it? How does it? I think where we rely heavily on Wardens and we don't get the rerolls, I think potentially it's not the best. But don't get me wrong, it's a good buff. It's making them more interesting as a detachment. I just think it's when you added the two together, the damage output was fucking insane. Just for that one turn, but it was insane. And if you could time it right, it was game over. 100% game over.
Wow.
The damage output is going to be good. It's going to be good. But into certain factions
or units,
which have the ability,
certain keys.
Which have the ability to manipulate our AP. You then have to pick between A and B. do I either give them a 3-up save and try and burn through it with weight of dice, with the 5s exploding, or do I try and just give them a smaller number of saves but give them a harder save to make? You're going to have to weigh that up, and it depends on how many wounds they've got, what their toughness is.
Yeah. There's a lot
more complicated.
Yeah. I need to see the maths on this because I think it's going to be fascinating. Right. We want to keep this short and sweet, and there are 3 things I want to make points on, ask you one more question, and then ask you if you've got any other business. So, to rush through them quickly, mortal wounds and dev wounds we've touched on, huge benefit. It makes sense, right?
Massive. It's what we needed, yeah.
One, it's what we needed, but 2, again, go back to the first thing I said about like the pivoting and movement. It should always have been that. It should always have been dev wounds are a version of mortal wounds, but they just don't roll over. Cool, happy. Everyone gets it. They struggled with this edition to try and make people understand what dev wounds were meant to be. But I think this was always what it was meant to be originally. They just didn't do it properly.
Yeah. I always said that. I thought dev wounds should just be you can't take an armor save, but you can take an invuln save. I always thought it should be something like that. I don't think it should be you can't take any save at all. It is a mortal wound because they made them so prolific.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because there's so many mortal wound defenses out there. But yeah, a massive improvement for us. Second one, indirect fire kills a bunch of things that were hurting us. Not hurting us, but things that would like limit movements, or things that like a basilisk trying to hit you to make sure you could limit movements that had overlapping fields of fire and heavy, so that way it's hitting on stupid 3s or whatever. I think it's a low key, really big boost. It's a nice thing to have, and again, it just kills off a way of playing the game that I don't think they were meant to have out there.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't really play guards, so I don't really know much. I didn't really play against guards, so I don't really know that much in terms of. I never was really on the receiving end of it, like a car park.
Yeah.
But it certainly does help.
Agree.
It does in a slight way. It does nerf Draxus.
Oh, that's a fair point. Didn't think about that.
Yeah, because
she'd be hitting on 3s usually.
Well, she would be hitting on 4s, but if there's Xenos, she'd be hitting on 3s.
Got it. That is actually interesting. Again, it's a niche-ish case, and she's firing twice, once for battle. But it's a very small nerf. But I think it's a benefit to us to stop people hitting us with stuff that affects us, or like guaranteeing with, even though they're not around all that much anymore. But the night spin is limiting movement left, right, and center, and it's just like, okay, but you still have to hit, haven't you? Like, it's something else. Yeah, I like that. And then the last one I want to bring up as a rules change, quick fire rules change, the redeploy is changing. Now, one of the reasons we spoke about having shield captains all the time was for Castellan's Mark, right? Are you taking Castellan's Mark still?
No. It's this was not a lot of people are looking at this. The fact that it's a nerf. This is a humongous
1,000%
nerf for us. I would probably say Castellan's Mark probably won me around 50% of the games that I won. Because of that. Yeah, so it's huge.
So just quickly on this. So the difference is redeploy is now before you know who's going first. So historically with Castellan's Mark, because you could do, it was 2, or was it 3? No, it was 3. 2?
It was 2.
It was 2. So you could lay 2 things out on the line, know you're going second, and then hide them in big ruins and stuff. So this is or back into strat reserve. Because you don't know who's going first, it's a massive change in terms of how you were playing, definitely. They brought the points down by 5.
Yeah,
but
no, it's ridiculous. I was kind of shell shocked when they did it. I understand why they did it, because they wanted to have all of them the same.
Yeah.
But I feel that it's what made the faction. I mean, every faction and every detachment has something that's unique, or I'm sure they would want to give that, and this probably gives it that. Now, if anything, it should have gone up in points. I think probably 30 points was a bit cheap. It probably should have been around 40 or something. But changing it to this, it's not really worth it anymore. And it's reduced a bit of the kind of like the cheekiness and the kind of the kind of tech pieces that we can put in. It's made me lose a bit of my enthusiasm for the detachment.
Really? That's a big thing.
Because it's not like it's lost some of its identity, right?
Are you thinking about not playing Shield Host?
I'm toying with Talons now, to be honest. Even though that's the one I hate the most, I'm toying with it. Although I think Auric is the change to Auric, which we haven't even mentioned yet. Auric is still a bag of crap, to be honest.
Interesting, because again, I'm different on this. I like Auric.
Shocking.
Oh, I like Auric.
After that change,
character units is great. It's what we asked for.
If it was, it's what we asked for, but we asked for it in the context of the stratagems as well.
It's in the strats, yeah.
This isn't. No. The character unit is only for the detachment buff, which is a +1 to wound.
Oh, I misread that.
So the strats
are still character models.
Unit. They're still character model.
I misread it.
If they were character units, everything. I mean, everyone, the Wub and his wife would be playing all.
Yeah.
But character, it's only the detachment, which is ridiculous because Venatari don't get it anyway, right? Because we got Lance.
Yeah.
And we can't put a character with Mobile Venatari, so that's redundant. So they give us a really cheap unit that we're going to spam and say, actually, you're not going to get any buffs in this detachment because you can't put a character with them.
Yeah. Again, I was like, oh yeah, Auric becomes interesting, but you're right. I read it as they didn't read the strats. As in, I didn't read the whole thing. I can't read, so it's not my fault. Interesting. The last question I've got is actually probably going to save it for a future episode. But it's around Trajan and his utility, because actually, let's end it with the question. Why are you looking at Trajan? What's Trajan interesting to you for?
Oh, it's just his output.
Is it for damage 3?
Yeah, it's damage 3, but it's also the fact that he can do an awful lot with his. Because I was running him with, I was running him pre. I started to run him pre-change because, him going up to AP3 and exploding 5s when he has 12 attacks is insane. And now I'm still running him because, admittedly, I would only get one of those buffs, but he just, every time I run him, he's one-shot something that's far more valuable than him and his squad. Or if, for example, I need to bring down something that's just like Angron, for example. Say I've used my Sagittarium, I've killed him, Angron comes back. The only thing I've got on that table that can kill Angron is Trajan in his unit. There isn't another.
Fascinating.
Yeah, there isn't another unit that can do that. So he gives me that kind of like. Do you know what I mean? A Blade Champion wouldn't really do that because a Blade Champion would only have 5 attacks. Yes, it's got dev wounds, but we're going to get 1 or 2 through. I'd rather get the 8 saves.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
It's interesting because against lists like you run into me, he's not really good because you can kill me. For example, your World Eater list has the Pret. You can kill me in shooting, and you can kill me in combat. But into other lists, I think he's going to be quite cheeky.
Okay.
It's interesting that you don't think that.
No.
Actually.
So, I'm thinking he's still a point sink, right? And he takes up, because you have to have characters with your Wardens to make them the -1 to wound. and I don't think he's very good with the Wardens. And because of how you've got your two Inquisitors that have to go with the Guard, and then Valerian is usually going to go with Wardens or the Sag. I'm just sitting there going, okay, so like, where's T-Man going to get the benefit out of him? And I can only think he's going to go with your Wardens. No?
Yeah. Yes and no. Depends how I'm into. If I feel like if I feel like I need him, like, in a real combat unit, then it'd be Wardens. If I feel like I might need the rerolls, then, like, say if I'm into lots of like knights and stuff, then he'll go with the Guard. But if I'm with someone who can manipulate hit rolls and shooting, I'll probably put him with the Sag, to be honest.
Interesting. He gives you the flexibility that I think is very interesting. I still think he's too many points for what he does. I still don't like his abilities. The once per battle 12 attacks is incredible, don't get me wrong, and stacked in Shield Host is very good. Like, I can do the math and see the damage output, and I think you're right, he does punch up. He gives you that redundancy in terms of killing power, where you don't need a tank to do anti-tank things. You can put T-Man into them. I just think he takes a valuable slot, and I'm not convinced that he's the one that you need at this points level, because of how cheap Valerian is, because of how cheap Blade Champions are.
Yeah. Point taken on that. I think it's kind of like remains to be seen.
Oh yeah, I think what's interesting now though is that there is a number of lists I can start to see that interest me to play and get reps in and see what we can do. I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited. I think it's an interesting balanced Dataslate. It's a different balanced Dataslate, and I think when we see what the meta calms down as, because so many armies got buffed and nerfed, and like I was watching Tactical Tortoise in terms of who's the big winners and losers and stuff, and I was like, how does Custodes face into this like new world now? And their opinion is it's a massive buff for us, and I'm like, yeah. And then having spoken to you tonight, I'm like, maybe like, but I still think you can lose quite heavily.
I don't want to be
maybe.
Yeah, I don't want to be down about it, but I think I don't think it's as much as everyone is saying. I think the biggest buffs to us is probably the reduction or the nerfs to the other armies around us. I think if you look at our buffs in and of themselves, if you were to take these buffs and not change anything else in the game, we wouldn't have really moved much. It would make it more flammable. It would make us a little bit more competitive, yes, but we wouldn't have moved much if you take it in the context of all the other buffs or nerfs to all the other factions. Then it starts to add up, and I think it'll be interesting to see where we fit.
Final question for me, and then I'll let you have your final thoughts and stuff. Do you think that this balanced Dataslate is beneficial to the casual player more than the competitive player? Like, if you were doing pickup games, do you think that there's more in here? Because, you might know who you're going into or the sort of type of army. So you can kind of, not list tailor, but you understand what the matchup might be. But if you're going into a tournament, obviously you're going into it blind and not sure who your round one matchup is. So do you think that this is a benefit to a casual player?
Yeah, do you mean just for Custodes or in general for everyone?
Just for us, like, just for the time being, just for us. Like, in my heart of hearts, the Venatari are very, very, very good now, on paper. But if you don't run Venatari, I don't think there's any other forge-world options you definitely have to take anymore. I don't think, like, your Sag are very good, the Cronus is good, but I think that the Codex comes into its own in a certain kind of way, because there is a bit more flexibility, because there is the changes to the rest of the game and the other armies. I think, I'm not saying you're going to see any Custodes only Codex builds, but I think there is a way of playing it now with just the Codex, in my opinion. So as a casual player, if you're a casual player,
yeah,
I think this is a low-key benefit.
Yeah, I would say, and I'd say definitely around the changes to us as a faction, around the changes to the wider game, I'd say probably that's quite, if you're a relatively new player, it could probably look a little bit complex, especially with the pivot move and all that changes, overhang and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, some more wound spills, some don't, depending on where they're from, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's probably the wider changes to the game are kind of constricting a bit, but for the faction, if you're relatively new and only have codex units, not forgeable, then you're in a much better spot, I think. I mean, I think, Alaris, I'm starting to think about Alaris again now.
For all the rerolls.
Yeah, for the rerolls, put in a shield captain with them so they can spam sustained, and then give the shield captain, 5-point enhancement for ignore cover.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden they're quite cheeky. You can put him with 3 or 4 man squad or even 5 man, and their output just is astronomical, especially if you're going to cover and with sustained as well, which you can do for free now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's an option. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's certainly opened up more for us, and I think people who just run like the kind of codex units should certainly feel like, and in a casual environment should certainly feel a lot more kind of, oh, I can do this, or or look at that, I can put this combo together, blah blah blah. It should certainly be like that now.
I agree. Those are all my thoughts. Those are my notes. Have you got anything you want to end with that we haven't touched on or discussed?
It was interesting. I think I'm still trying to digest it, to be honest. I still think that it's probably going to take up to 5-10 games of playing this to kind of get more of a feel. Especially against like some of the meta factions, I'm going to have to play against them. To kind of scope out where we are, right? I don't think I've only played one game. I think since this has dropped, I don't think we're going to know where we fit. This side of a month, to be honest. I think it's going to take a bit of a while for this to settle because it's just been so massive. The change, which probably brings us back full circle to this 10.5.
Yeah, it's interesting because starting this day, I was like, no. Now I'm ending it, being like, I think it might be. I think like it. And the one thing that we have, and admittedly, we have tried to keep it isolated. These are massive changes to Leviathan, but Pariah Nexus is a different beast, and I think it'll be interesting for the next week's episode to kind of have a think about. We might not get the reps in yet, but what we're thinking about in terms of how Pariah Nexus plays out, and that's a little spoiler, I guess, of an upcoming episode.
I mean, it has massive impact on list building. I think if people are still building lists that they did a week ago or 2 weeks ago, then they're going to lose.
I think so, massively.
I think it's going to take a bit of time for that to settle in.
I think more than before, for me at least, I think you need to make sure you get some games because this is a different beast now. The changes are huge and it is a different beast. Cool. Do you want to leave it there?
Any final thoughts from you?
No, that's everything from me. I think, again, we try to keep it short and sweet, but there's a lot to talk about here. If you've made it this far, as always,
I liked it. Was it let's do a 30-minute one today. Yeah, let's do a 30-minute one.
Yeah. Like we're running late. We haven't done one for a while. We're like, okay, let's keep it nice and tight. And then it's a thread that you keep pulling at. But it's interesting because, like I say, I feel much more upbeat about this game now with Custodes. Like I'm going, okay, I can see my list. I can see the way that I like to play the game, and what I need to take to be able to do that. And I think the Venatari points is a big part of this because I get more units, I can get more trading pieces, I can get more stuff, and yeah, so I'm excited. I'm very excited. Those are my final thoughts. I'm not going to ramble on again. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Let us know below what the balanced Dataslate has done for you. Are you happy? Are you unhappy? What do you think has changed in your gameplay? All that good stuff. You know how to write comments. I don't need to tell you how to do that, but put them down below. We'll continue the debate down there. And until next time, that is me. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone. Speak soon.